Capitalism is a Muslim venture, and so it is the cut pyramid in our political hierarchy. Well, now here the question is, I just wonder, am I not making mistake here, recognizing it as a Muslim initially, or it would be actually Jewish venture? But we see here the entire Muslim population continue to gather around that Mecca protocol. They do have a centerpiece. That is like a sacrificed lamb or something. I'm going to find very much the entire capitalism, the entire feudalism, therefore, and according to Muslim territories, via that feudalism, very much embodied in the entire three wise men story and Jesus as a sacrificed son by fathers. And the entire Jesus bloodline basically going in this kind of turmoil. This is critical momentum. It is not just Jesus in this case scenario. Make us suggest we talk about mother as well. It seems that here the critical figure is mother, and then it is son Jesus. We have here exactly that situation of not Jesus son of father, but Jesus son of mother. What's going on here? And mother being reference to Mecca. Mecca is reference to mother. Then we have also Moses and Ten Commandments. We have here overlapping of two historic plateaus. And simply the story of capitalism is in the same time political story. It is in the same time story of takeover. I will quickly reflect on the events of Pakistan that caught my attention yesterday and somehow triggered my thinking about democracy and ultimately about capitalism. For some reason, I found myself completely in this kind of cloud of today. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to continue my reading. Therefore, in regard of the situation in Pakistan, where a long-term leading woman was taken down by the crowd, first question would be, would they do that to a movie star? Would they behave like that with property that belongs to a movie star or to some kind of entrepreneur? Somehow, people today have that approach as thinking of capitalism as it is like some kind of holy cow, and they don't go out there questioning too much, wondering too much. It my entire global criminal happening right there in front of their noses. They're completely going to go it away because it is going to be some kind of entertaining face shining out there, smiling nicely, and so on and so on. But when it comes to real political weight, I have not been investigating case. I just don't like the behavior of the masses, and certainly not in times where we are celebrating women. I'm finding that as very much provocative. So what I can't understand is why people allow themselves to be so stupidly personal on private property of people that have certainly earned their income by actually diligently employing themselves with the best intentions to do the job for what they have been paid by the way. If the person wakes up in the morning and attends to the end of the day certain kind of duty, that person has earned private money for their private property, and no one have right to walk over private property that has been earned by someone's personal physical effort. We may agree or disagree with variety of issues, but people should not allow themselves to get that personal and to go out there to do demolition of streets like that, like these are some kind of private streets, like these are not national streets. Not how stupid these people should be thinking that someone else is going to pay for all of that, but not themselves for all of the damage they have done. There is no one else to pay for it but themselves. Each time, however, when we see such kind of behavior on the streets, it will be testimony above all about very low level of national culture on these territories, and no one is going to take too seriously for a longer time such stays. How stupid such humans have been to allow to be played like that. When you say behavior like that in a nation, It is not anymore even a political question before it is to be a question of conduct and question of culture. If someone it somehow initiated again my thinking about democracy and capitalism for that matter, and how often we see these events actually playing on from the vandal side, playing actually the vandalism. We all have impression that when you spell such words, it is like you are reaching some next level of something, but in substance that is not how it is. In substance, very often democracy stands for chaos and lost sense of order, and of any civilizational criteria for that matter, while capitalism, to the extent that can easily empower individuals and groups on very random grounds and very questionable grounds, and allow such wild force to each time stand against real progress and development, against real forces of civilization, against normal people that would honestly work their lifetime with intention to improve the conditions of life on the planet, and not all of these people would fit in a few characters that are being chosen by globalization today to represent such people. But if the rest of the system does not work for the rest of the people of such kind, but the rest of the system very easily become a weapon against the rest of the good people, then such system stops making any sense anymore. If capitalism today can be anything from terrorism to drug trading to human trafficking to spider net building around our private houses and what we do with our private initiatives, if someone can still steal from you your private business and declare it as their own business, that capitalism lost its moral ground and as such its legitimacy accordingly, so it cannot be even admitted as official legal system anymore, or that is by any official legal system anymore. And if you ask what is there left for us, well, statehood, in terms in which for many would have been long-term event associated with actual formation of your entire sense for integrity and organization on the principles of statehood, of course. After all, that is what people want. People want to be taken care of. Well, capitalism is not the system that's going to provide you taken care of. That system is state protocol. But don't be foolish to think that democracy or capitalism, in other words, are the ones that are going to take care of you, because that is simply wrong. Capitalism will never take care of you. It will treat you like disposable garbage. It will throw you away. It will use you and throw you as a disposable garbage. That is capitalism, and especially the ones that are trying to get into that system later, I would argue. No anyone else would have absolutely any chance but to end up being usable and disposable. If all of the people should understand something by now, that would be that capitalism is not going to take care of people. That is not what capitalism is promising. On the other side, state is the one that by a definition would need to take care of you, because that is what state is promising. This is especially valid for less developed countries that need yet to build plenty of infrastructure, none of what can be accepted as a private business venture, but only as a state initiative, as that state can provide the most acceptable terms for such build-up. They can use domestic resources and domestic labor, and of course, they are not going to export the profit, they are going to use it on the local grounds. Also, if some of the leaders are not exactly behaving correctly, they can be replaced. Well, not physically slaughtered as we can saw happening in Pakistan, not getting that personal, but certainly can be replaced with legal procedure and in very dignified manner rather recommended. But what is important here is that you can activate the state legal system that is obligated to take care of you as a citizen, which cannot be done in case of capitalism exactly. That does not mean that capitalism cannot be sued for overstepping in your private lives. Of course it can be, and it should be. That is exactly what it makes it unstable for any state economy, because it can be sued. Well, when state in question, everything gets channeled in political corridors where it should be, as questions of conduct are legal questions, not economic questions, and even when embodied in capitalism, at some point they would become political questions. That is where we would find capitalism today, exactly on that place. Capitalism is political. I have to notice that capitalism, by the character of how it deploys, especially when in question even initial aggregation of capital, would be therefore profoundly Muslim, and as such would have logically as centerpiece nothing less but Mecca itself, that is, a woman. That system cannot be employed by Europeans or Western territories anymore. These territories should immediately drop capitalism and replace it with state economy, as it would work against women in general, while Europe is defined by a woman. It is in question, as I have been discussing all this time, the fraternity society. It may be that some people employed in that system would not be exactly aware or toiled out on what parameters this entire protocol function, but the fact is that that in its routing that is what we find. This would require complete reform of the entire financial system as well, and if ever attempted again, something like that would look like shared investment. It will need to be very carefully constructed, very much within the contours of national state platforms, in which case scenario what would be shared here would be rather international investments versus national investment. But capitalism, as we know from the feudalism times, that capitalism is time to get departed. But I would ask you here to notice how the cut pyramid protocol works in the case scenario when you miss to notice the initial event of a wrongdoing, when the initial event of wrongdoing has been missed, where the initial offense has been missed under some kind of opportunistic collective agreement, and then the legal system starts, and then we start talking about something or someone being offended or someone offending. It looks to me very much as a political, looks to me very much as top of the pyramid is to do something with a different cultural identity and very typical to some kind of political opposition, as we refer exactly to that kind of intolerance, to that kind of oppression, as only in such kind of situation there would be very heavy political conflict, where certain group of population can go away with offending previous and not providing any sense of accountability for it. Notice what is clearly a political situation has become embodied in economic system we call today capitalism. I'm going to notice, therefore, that capitalism is profoundly Muslim, not just profoundly failing, but actually and above all profoundly Muslim states embodying today the concept of three wise men and Jesus' bloodline as a matter of opportunism and ongoing complete vandalism of a certain category of population, which become therefore different because of the political differences and because of the cultural differences. I will insist from my perspective on protocol monarchy still as closely related to state protocol, which recognizes yet or memorizes the actual historic tracking of certain individual performances. For sake of it, I will say everything that life is about really on the planet, for sake of respecting how life on this planet happens. Respecting our true traditions, but also recognizing the stamp that have been historically charting history in real terms. The stamps. In that respect, politically, we are certainly in Game of Thrones situation as well, and it will be clear that any game would be about criteria. The politics would be always about its crown, which is political philosophy and political and historic heritage identity related performances. This is important because, first of all, I believe that my family will find great state military level of any family will find great state military level of apparatus threatening actually. Monarchy is providing different kind of message. Also, it is not about just one family, it is about families in our societies. And here again, I have to notice how Jesus' bloodline ended up to be out of all of the rest of the bloodlines walked down, and if I would not find substance in that story in relation to my own lineage and bloodline, I would not pull it out. But simply I found plenty of tail behind my back today that no any police or no any country would know how to deal with on its own. But it happened somehow that I was not easily scared away. So here I am in some kind of situation where if you do not walk above, you will be walked over. And here I'm talking one person versus quite a gigantic tail I would certainly not like to be walked over by. I'm going to say again, it is scary when you notice how state systems can develop into such regimes where human life ends up being worth nothing. Monarchy brings the story of life closer to the ground if real, and if real, would stand and fight for it. Today I fight for my house because I deliver work that belongs to such house, and they have taken care to make me to feel as I am on the street, as I am some kind of poor Jesus on the street, homeless. So notice here how the entire story of capitalism does have its very romantic centerpiece, nothing less than a monarchy house, and so I have fought it exactly in such manner. One would ask, to bring this level of analysis, one should be much more educated. Or one should be reading the Bible and the Quran and so on and so on. I was reading Marxism, and I was living in Marxism. I prefer to monitor things because I have learned that books can actually be misleading. Also, books or the intelligence can be used or applied in purpose of accomplishing completely different results than what the writer initially would like. Systems versus the one that was creating them do not always match the initial intention. I do not want to offend anyone. I'm just bringing attention to certain issues. It will take a long time to study Quran, to read Bible, if you have not been studying in your youth, which living in socialism was not exactly the recommended reading or the prestigious one. And I do not have time today dealing with me observing and especially being alerted by consequences of socialism and how dangerous it is that we do not attend from now on any kind of not just ideology but also mass behavior. I'm totally terrified of the consequences of wrong systematic reforms or the consequences of these reforms that turn out to have such regime interface rather, not to allow that to become some kind of global system. Living for quite some time in capitalism, I have recognized another scarecrow of humanity, another downfall, another big hole of humanity. The messy, the ugly, the dirty, the miserable capitalism. Cheap, rotten, like a vampire, dragging its old vampire body and trying to convince us it is still relevant. As stinky as it is, as tons of rotten body hidden in their economic affairs, I have realized their systems never stopped being political. To study, yes, the realm itself. We are to study the realm itself. So open your eyes, turn on your mind, and write then what you say. I'm not going to read your Quran, I don't have time for it. When I just translate in our language what it means well, something like Tour de Fel in France. Excuse me, am I supposed to get serious? Someone is well joking on this planet for quite some time. I don't want to offend many people that are devoting their lifetime in some kind of microscopic perspective of their little life. And God is always big and they're always little. But it's all relative. It's really all relative. And today it is time that we step up out of our mental boxes and try to see this real in most realistic terms and try to see ourselves locked in these boxes and how it looked to be outside of that box. That is the book we need to read today. One would ask, to bring this level of analysis, one should be much more educated. Or one should be reading the Bible and the Quran and so on and so on. I was reading Marxism, and I was living in Marxism. I prefer to monitor things because I have learned that books can actually be misleading. Also, books or the intelligence can be used or applied in purpose of accomplishing completely different results than what the writer initially would like. Systems versus the one that wanted that was creating them do not always match the initial intention. I do not want to offend anyone. I'm just bringing attention to certain issues. It will take a long time to study Quran, to read Bible, if you have not been studying in your youth, which living in socialism was not exactly the recommended reading or the prestigious one. And I do not have time today dealing with me observing and especially being alerted by consequences of socialism and how dangerous it is that we do not attend from now on any kind of not just ideology but also mass behavior. I'm totally terrified of the consequences of wrong systematic reforms or the consequences of these reforms that turn out to have such a regime interface rather, not to allow that to become some kind of global system. Living for quite some time in capitalism, I have recognized another scarecrow of humanity, another downfall, another big hole of humanity. The messy, the ugly, the dirty, the miserable capitalism. Cheap, rotten, like a vampire, dragging its old vampire body and trying to convince us it is still relevant. As stinky as it is, as tons of rotten body hidden in their economic affairs, I have realized their systems never stopped being political. To study, yes, the realm itself. We are to study the realm itself. So open your eyes, turn on your mind, and write then what you say. I'm not going to read your Quran. I don't have time for it. When I just translate in our language what it means well, something like Tour de Fel in France. Excuse me, am I supposed to get serious? Someone is well joking on this planet for quite some time. I don't want to offend many people that are devoting their lifetime in some kind of microscopic perspective of their little life. And God is always big and they're always little. But it's all relative. It's really all relative. And today it is time that we step up out of our mental boxes and try to see this real in most realistic terms and try to see ourselves locked in these boxes and how it looked to be outside of that box. That is the book we need to read today. So I was discussing just a few days ago how my approach is closer to military, describing, of course, the monarchy protocol, and they're making situation in Bangladesh. Someone is still holding me as a joke, and that is a bigger joke, actually. The ones that are holding me as a joke are actually the joke themselves. So who is that exactly? Who is exactly playing me still as a joke? My team, can we find out who continues on this planet to play me as a joke? They need to be informed that they are the bigger joke themselves. And they will need to be acknowledged with that exact piece of information. They are the joke. Probably the one sitting on Titanic with that music orchestra. I happen to generate a very low opinion about the entire concept of Western civilization. I think I have said that this is phenomena of some kind of a decadent stage of imperial decline. Although I would not, I have not been convinced that they can be actually called empire, since I have been found them so much on some kind of disconnection from comprehending even what should be all about. In context of some kind of greater intervention that would go, for example, and devastate territories and things like that. I have impression that they're much more on one side puppets, and on the other side just forgetting that every single day and continuing to behave as they're not someone's puppets, not asking also whose puppets they are. So, who is to be blamed for not taking me enough seriously on this earth? In-laws of Rasputin pedigree, who is to look as making fun out of me. My in-laws of Rasputin degree, who that would be exactly. Also, now that I'm launching protocol Olymp from my Serbo-Macedonian identity, who is the one worsening the relationship of Macedonia and Greece? Would that be Serbia, since I have been informed that it is actually Serbia controlling the entire political stage of Macedonia? Now, on what ground exactly that would be happening when I have never stopped providing that I am Serbo-Macedonian protocol? Accordingly, Serbia in Serbia, Macedonia in Macedonia, please. Can we sort that out immediately? And can England/Serbia stop dreaming about Greece and Olymp on my back, please? Can we also clarify Olymp will always be about the energy that will be triggering the entire identity protocol? Can we start learning our lectures of the present time?